The Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show. Here we go.
What up? What up? What up, thou? Yes, it is Boss and the Sauce time officially. I don't know what else is going on right now, but from now to the end of the college football season, it's Boss and the Sauce Show every Wednesday, 5:30 on the West Coast, 8:30 on the East Coast. How you feeling today, Big Ragoo?
I'm excited, brother. It's college football time, week 0, which could be week 1, however you want to work it out. But, man, I'm so happy to be here with you again for another fantastic college football season and a season-long Boss and the Sauce Show every Wednesday night.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that really warms my soul. No COVID, no half schedule, real football. Back to the good old times when we started. Boss and the Sauce Show. It's all authentic. We live and direct. Hop in the chat, ask the same thing, except for our social security number, and we'll give it to you. But shoot, man, we got a lot of tough games coming up. You know, I'm always an angle guy, Big Ragoo. Before we get into these games, I want to throw a question out there, you know. So I'm always thinking of angle. So going into these beginning games, you know, been practicing all summer, you know, new recruits, old recruit, whatever is game time. I mean, what are some good angles and insights that you look at going into those type of situations?
Oh, man. I mean, a lot of moving parts, you know, with this new NIL and the big coaching merry-go-round and even more so the portal. I mean, come on, it's dizzying right now. I got to be honest with you. I'm saying, man, we got to do this for 130 teams. That's a lot of work, man. I mean, normally, you know, we have, like you said, a couple. I always like to look, you know, going forward after bowl season, you know, we start looking at spring, like, you know, you said you've seen some spring games and whatnot. So spring games is something I like looking at, you know, and then, you know, looking at more regionalized as far as, you know, just kind of getting a grip on what's going on locally, you know, kind of, you know, wet your tongue a little bit. Then we'll start breaking down conference by conference. And then, you know, angle-wise, you know, I'm looking at coaches. I'm looking at the recruiting, you know, how many years into the coaches, you know, 3rd, 4th year, that type of thing, whether it's his system now completely. But, you know, a lot of coordinator changes, too, are big right now. So a lot of guys are wanting to win now. And that's going to be a look going forward. You know, like Lane Kiffin hit it. He was talking about, you know, how, like, normally when they're recruiting high school, you know, it's hit or miss. But now with these kids that have some proven time playing at other universities, you know, they're ready to play and they're ready to win now. So getting these kids acclimated to their systems, you know, and watching these spring games and these practices.
Absolutely, man. And nowadays, I think when you talk about coordinators, like it's been a while till we got as far as into coordinators, unless it's something that, you know, really hits, you know, the market or something like that. But I'd like to know if there's any good handicappers out there that really know their coordinators really well. You know, maybe we need to team up, because I need some of that information, because we've been dealing with coaches and players and recruitment and stuff like that. But now, you know, when you got who was it, Venables, who was making $100,000, over $100,000 at defensive coordinator. When you got guys like that now it's that important. So that's an interesting thing.
Venables was making a lot more than that when he was at Clemson, probably like a couple million, because Dabo took a big pay cut back in the day to keep all those guys together. But yeah, you'll see more of that going forward, and you're going to see guys that are, you know, next up type deep coordinators that are going to, like, just kind of like they do in other places. You know, they take that next step up and they get the coaching jobs at the smaller schools to start out, and then they kind of work their ways up to the big leagues. And you see a lot of coordinators that have NFL experience that have kind of come back down to the college ranks, and, you know, or just, you know, because they're a lot of that's relationships too. So that's where it's at with the coordinators. You know, they got the relationships going, and, you know, calling on old friends to kind of rekindle some relationships. Like a perfect example is when we'll get into one of these games we're going to be talking about later. The Pitt, I think it was the Pitt game that there was a
Pitt, West Virginia,
the Minnesota game. That's
Minnesota.
That's the last game we're going to talk about. But there's an issue there with a coordinator and a head coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. And but speaking of moving parts, like you said, a lot of moving parts and all that good stuff is going on right now. And the portal is really crazy right now. Now the portal has brought out this situation that we have going on at this first game we're gonna go through right here. Get it up there. That's West Virginia at Pittsburgh, right?
Hmm.
So interestingly enough, in this one, we have two transfer portal SC players, JT Daniels and Slovis, are going up against each other in the first week of football in this situation right here. I thought that was kind of unique, and there
Yeah.
has to be a lot, on the portal to make these kind of things possible. I guess it's something we're going to be seeing a lot often.
Yeah, I mean,
What did you
it
think?
is like you said. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of California flavor right there, especially in your backyard. Both of these kids played, you know, on the same team, maybe not at the same time, but pretty darn close to one another. And then, when Daniels went to Georgia, and then now he's sitting up there at West Virginia, to replace Doge up there. And then, of course, um, Slovis, he went to Pitt,
Pitt.
and he was recruited by Narduzzi personally, and he said it was a natural fit. It was like it was a no-brainer for him to make that move to Pitt. So, and the Pitt's offensive coordinator hightailed it out, and he's on Nebraska right now. He's running the
Right.
Nebraska offense. So, like I say, a lot of moving pieces. So, and we'll hit those as we go along. But yeah, it's a real interesting look in this particular game here. Just I'll let you break some stuff down, and I'll come back at you on it once you start touching on what you want to touch on. But yeah, as far as the portal system goes, I mean that's a perfect example right there, and the coordinators moving around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll go ahead and break it down. So we got the Big 12 versus the ACC in this one right here. Neil Bound, fourth year coach over at West Virginia. Pat Narduzzi, eighth year coach over at Pitt. Now, West Virginia for Brown, he could be on the hot seat after this year if he doesn't show and improve. At this point, there's a new offensive coordinator that he brought in, Graham Harrell, like we talked about with the those important issues. He did get, as we mentioned, JT Daniels through the portal. He has an offensive line returning five. So JT Daniels gets a solid line, which is a lot to say from what he was getting in the past. And the running back situation and wide receiver situation kind of going to be by committee for them. Now, on the defensive side of things, there's only three returners plus a couple transfer players, and he struggled with the rush and the run. I mean, the pass and the run support last year, and the secondary lost about allowed 23.8 points a game in 2021. And in the condition of them coming back with short players on the defensive end, um, you know the offense is a little bit thriving for them. So let's go over to Pitt now. Narduzzi, on the other hand, on the offensive side, he just got a contract extension, by the way. But they was exceptional in the 2021 season. They went 11-3, won the ACC, lost a bowl game. They lost a big one in Kenny Pickett, but they gained Slovis. So if you guys know anything about Slovis, he was coached by Kurt Warner in high school. So that's a big plus. And some of the ways he displays himself as a quarterback, it shows that someone like Kurt Warner helped him out there. But they did lose Wimple, as you mentioned, to Nebraska, but they returned Frank Signet from Boston College. He's a run first offensive coordinator. He had some dealings with the school way back in 2009 and 2010. The O line returns five, all seniors. Last year, they rushed for 149 a game. The running back situation, they returned a trio of running backs, including a little more depth. At wide receiver, they lost a few good ones, gained a few good ones. And over on defense, they have six all ACC starters return from last year. And last year, they allowed 89.3 on the ground, but they let 264 go in the air. So
Yeah,
I think it's a lot to be said and all that. That's what I got on my notes. Where
yeah.
you going with it from here?
Those are all good notes, and funny. Let's not forget that they get Graham Harrell too, over in the West Virginia side from USC. So that's going to kind of rekindle a little relationship there with JT Daniels. For the West Virginia side of Neil Brown, like you said, his fourth season. But hit the thing with the thing with West Virginia is they're definitely solid against the run, but I'm sorry, their passing defense is solid, but the rushing defense is a little suspect. They were ranked 102nd in nationally on the against the run, and they're giving up about 24 points a game roughly. So they're kind of like their pass defense is decent, but the Russian defense can use a lot of improvement. And a big problem for them was turnovers. They had a big turnover ratio. I think they were like -6, so somewhere in that realm. And they just have to tighten up things on the defensive side. And both teams, this if they played this game a year ago, I said it'd be a pretty good over spot without a question. Pittsburgh's side, like you were saying, Narduzzi, his 8th year. They did win the ACC. They had a ton of offense. They got an all-star wide receiver, Jordan Addison. USC tried to NIL this kid, but something happened in legalities that kind of put the brakes on it. Don't ask me what happened. I don't know all the terms or the conditions that happened there, but I know he is staying home at Pitt, so they get him back. And, and they do get Slovis, like you said, and I think they're going to be pretty potent on the offensive side. Defensively, they ranked first and second in sacks nationally, and first rushing yards. So Pittsburgh is about stuffing the run. That's what they do. So if they could try to make West Virginia one-dimensional in that aspect, they're going to be tough to run on because they do have a bunch of starters coming back there. So initially, when I was looking at this game, they got a line of 51.5, I believe, and 6.5 on the line on the side. And I think this as much as the offenses are going to go through changes here, I think there's still enough pieces on the Pittsburgh side, and even with the new look offense that West Virginia is going to bring, I think they're going to improve upon what they had last year. And I think they're going to even be better because they still have a lot of star power they have on the offensive side. Even though it's not top tier, it's still very serviceable. I think, but the thing about Pittsburgh's defense, where they're really weak, is they rank 115th against the pass. So they're going to have to try to make them one-dimensional on the passing side. Force the run, make them the pass a little bit. But that's where their weakness is. So it's going to be give and take for Pittsburgh, and they're going to have to tighten up their passing game. So I see vulnerabilities on both sides of the defense. One against the run, one against the pass. So if they can play off of those angles, and we're sitting here looking at a total of 51.5. And I think we could easily see a 28-24 game here, which kind of puts the game on the over for me. So that's my look on this game. I'm not crazy about the side yet because both offenses are going to be tested. I think they will put up points. I don't know which one is going to cover the number, but I do think we'll see a decent over spot here. I know it's not a real low number, but I think it's low enough. I think we could maybe even see close to 60. If they both play, if Pittsburgh goes back to where they were at, and West Virginia kind of improves upon their on their offense just a little bit. If West Virginia is able to throw the ball, this is an easy over spot.
I like what you're saying over there, but I see the game a little bit different. Although I'm not ready to make a real official play on the whole game. So West Virginia traditionally has been known for good defense, if anything. Smash mouth, tough playing, good defense, those type of things. Since Neil Brown been here, it's been basically the same thing for them. But the offense doesn't, they're making the correct changes, but it doesn't really excite me that, oh, they're going to become this scoring machine or anything like that. If anything, they may have reached themselves to a point where they defense can now grow to be a little bit better because the offense can stay on the field a little longer. But I don't think with all the moving parts that is going to result in scoring unless there's some type of scheme or something that Harrell hits there with, and it just shocks everybody and they're able to score like that on the West Virginia side. On the Pittsburgh side, they share some situations on offense as well, but six returning All American stars on defense, they're gonna stay in the game with their defense. So I think Pitt will win. I can't say that they're going to cover the 7, but Pitt will win. I can't say that. So overall, my best play is if you're going to play some type of exotic or something, this may be a money line you might want to throw in there, depending on what the number is, if it adds a little value to whatever you have going on. That's probably my best bet with it. But I kind of lean under in week 1 because you're gonna have some fumble snaps. You're gonna have some. There's a few little things that happen, and it's kind of balanced because at the same time you have fumble snaps, you have kick returns, blown coverages, stuff like that, fumbles. So they make their mistakes in some of these games with the jitters and stuff. Stuff don't always go the way you think it's gonna go. So I lean under though. I lean under in this. If I had to put a play on it, I'd have to just eat it and take Pittsburgh minus the 7. But my best bet with it will be money line with Pittsburgh.
Money line Pittsburgh. Yeah. Well, they're going on the road. I mean, no, West Virginia's going on the road to Pitt to play them. So, I mean, I don't have an argument. I think they just still have a ton of weapons available to them. And then I think, like I said, I think even though they're upstart, newfangled, I don't think so much for even though Whipple's gone from Pitt, I think, a lot of the pieces are still there. And like you said, on the defensive side, they were number 1 in the country, 41 points a game. No, first in conference, number 3 nationally scoring points a game. So even if they take a step down a little bit, I still think they're going to get and still get like four touchdowns and a field goal, or somewhere in that neck of the woods. And I think West Virginia is going to do what they do. They scored, they're usually 23, 24 points both sides. So we'll see. I mean, like you said, early season, maybe fumble snap, who knows? But I thought it looked a little bit. If this was like a week 2 or 3 game, I think this total would probably be like 54, 55 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
1.5. Might be a little bit to ask, but that was my impression of it. So I'm going to probably – I'm not to the window yet, but I'm leaning that way pretty strong.
Well, I'm gonna just add to it if it helps you get to the window or get away from the window. But I believe Kenny Pickett was a 3-year starter over there, and the departure of him, which he was an excellent quarterback, he could even have, a high ceiling somewhere else. But that's a lot to replace. And then coming in with a guy like Slovis, not to say that he doesn't have the talent to be Kenny Pickett or do what he do, but I think it just takes a little more time.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna leave.
It's gonna take some time, without doubt.
I ain't gonna put too much on it right there. We early out, and some of these games are not games that we necessarily, looked at all the games and said they were the best ones. There's some of the games with the best lines or the best stories to them, whatever. So we here capping these. So don't take it personal.
Never take it personal.
Let's keep it moving though, man. Let's jump on over to the next one. Booyah. We got where did my notes go?
You got Penn State, Purdue.
We got Penn State versus Purdue. Penn State's a -3. The over-under is 54.5. Let me go ahead and open it up, Big Ragoo, and then you can go ahead and put yours in because I got a bunch of notes written down.
Yeah, go for it.
So this is a conference opener right here. So that's a lot different. So James Franklin, 9th year. Jeff Brom, 6th year. 2-season veteran coaches going at it. On the Penn State side, they struggled rushing offensively in 2021, 107 yards per game, 25 points per game. On the defensive side, at linebacker, they only got one returner, and that area over there needs a little assistance. In the secondary, it needs plenty of assistance back there as well. But on the brighter side of things, like we said, Manny Diaz comes in on defense. The D-line returns a couple from injury. They gain a 5-star recruit, Dana Sutton. And then on offense, the wide receivers is made up of a few good men. They're going to kind of do it by committee. At running back, they got 5 or 4 recruits that show with promise. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, some top star recruits as well. And the QB in the situation in this one, they return super senior, Sean Clifford. So he's a super senior coming back. And that means a lot nowadays, especially with the extra COVID year and all that good stuff. Now let's jump over to the Purdue side of things. And some good things to say about Purdue. And my sheet's so lit up because I got that in yellow, I could barely see it. But anyways, at quarterback, they get Aiden O'Connell, who returns for his senior year as well. So we got 2 senior quarterbacks going against each other. The offensive line returns 3 and was impressive in the string game. At running back, they got some good returners plus some transfers. At wide receiver, they lost plenty of talent, but they stacked that tight end as well.
Mm-hmm.
In defense, they're returning 9 on defense. Say it again. They're returning 9 on defense. All units except the linebacker return seniors as well, and they look very solid on defense. They have co-defensive coordinators, and you'll see a few teams that do this as well. Ron English and Mark Hagan. And the last year defense wasn't bad to start off with. They only allowed 22 points a game, 157 on the ground, 208 in the air. And I think basically they can do the same. If at minimum, they'll do the same on defense as they did last year, but I'm expecting them to step it up a couple more notches, maybe slow down the run a little bit more, and clutch up on the passing just as they've been doing so far. So what do you feel about these 2 teams going together right here?
Yeah, without a doubt, 2 good senior quarterbacks, right? Like Clifford, he's like the all-time leader between yardage and percentages, completion at Penn State. I think we have like 3 quarterbacks throw for over 7,500 yards. He's one of them. Their struggles is in the run game. Ever since Barkley's been gone, Saquon, New York Giant, they got some really young running backs. They got a freshman and a sophomore, and they were like, I think they were ranked 118th nationally in a Big Ten school. That's really shocking. And they have relied heavily on the pass with Clifford, so they have to clean up a lot of stuff on the running game. And they're talking like they have 4 possible. They haven't even had their starting backfield yet because I guess they got to recruit. I'm trying to look the kid's name up. I had it written down. I thought, anyways, I don't know what the hell I did with it, but anyways, they got to recruit a highly ranked recruit. A true freshman that they said they might start. They said he's like a big playmaker. I don't know if he's like lightning in a bottle like Barkley, but seemed like a little bigger kid, flash some speed, stuff like that. So, they definitely need to get their running game going. So that's their big. And then I think the other reason for their trouble that run is because they've had some really issues on the offensive line, especially the left side, and they're going to have that continue happen this year. It looks like again because they have a freshman and a sophomore to fill the gaps on the left side. So they're going to have to tighten up the offensive line, which starts in the trenches for the run game. So they got to figure some things out. Defensively, they've been pretty good. They've been giving up like 17 points a game. That's number 2 in the conference and 6 nationally. So they don't have the issues, and then their struggles do come from a gambling perspective on the road. They always seem to Franklin has been known not to cover games on the road, and then they got to go to play at Purdue. And Purdue, what can we say about this team here? Braum, he's been ranked 1 and 2 in every offensive category in passing in the Big Ten. So that's all this team does is pass. They do not run the football. They don't run by choice. I don't know. It just seems like if you go back and look at what their running backs did, and I checked this out, they scored 6 touchdowns in a combination of 3 running backs. That's all, and everything else was a passing touchdown the whole season. So they only scored 6 TDs the whole season running. So I mean, just let's see. Yeah, last year they got 6 TDs running. That's all. But they're getting about 22 points a game, and they finished up, nicely. What was surprising is that bowl game they played against Tennessee. They finished out with that strong win. They won 48-45. This is a team that scores about 22 points a game on average, even though they have strong offensive numbers passing. In defense, they're right there. Defensively, they have a pretty decent defense. So I think Penn State might be in a little bit of trouble here in this spot, even though they're favored to go and win. Unless they clean things up with the running game, they might be in trouble in this spot here. That's all I'm saying. This could be a good win right out of the gate early in the conference. I don't have confidence in either side first game out, but if you held a gun in my head, I would probably say I have to take the points in Purdue here.
Yeah, I would love to. I really lean Purdue plus the points, but and this is not like a whiteout game or nothing in Penn State. Like there's a lot of advantage to Purdue, but I don't understand the line. And then yet I do understand the line, but I don't understand the line. So it's not my favorite pick. This would be a tough position to be
Yeah,
in to
I'm
have a
not gonna
pick
play
right
this. I'm
here.
definitely not gonna play this game, but if I had to lean away, I would have to lean towards the home team and the points here, just
Now,
because they had the better record. They got the better. I think they have the better passing game a little bit defensively. I'd probably say Penn State's probably a little bit better defensively, but like I say, outside of Happy Valley taking their show on the road, I would. And then as good as Purdue plays offensively, and mediocre defense against a struggling Penn State offense, we'll see what they bring to the table this year.
yeah, if I had to take a play on this one, I'm gonna go with the over on this one.
You like the over?
And even though they struggle, I'm expecting all the surprise to come out on the offensive side because they know that's where they need to do better on. So, and I really like Purdue's offense. I think they'll do really good. The line was really impressive. So with a good offensive line, two senior quarterbacks, I expect them to both get the teams in the end zone some way somehow. I probably would sit on it and see if everybody, if the line gets away, or if I get it to, if I get it to come down a little more, if people start feeling the under more, and get it down to a solid maybe point and a half, 53, it'll be real good. But
Yeah, the
even
Purdue
how it
pass defense
is,
is really good though too.
yeah,
Passing D is really good.
yeah. But this was a tough game. But it's one of the better games on the card for the 0 week. I didn't want to be on here capping Incarnate World against Montana State, so I had to bring in some of the better games. But if you had to take a pick for me, then I'm gonna lean on the side of this one on because there's senior leadership that they can get them into the end zone, and I would take the over in this one. And sometimes in college football, people always think we some real crazy people for betting college football, but sometimes in college football, you got to have a lot of models and a lot of home bases to go to, because when you in a situation like this, and I had to take a point right here, it's a motto of mine to say two senior quarterbacks should get the team in the end zone, and that's how I lean on the over on this one. But not a play I'm gonna get to the window with. Let me take us to another one. What I got going on?
Virginia Tech OD.
Virginia Tech and OD. So this is a difficult one right here, Big Ragoo, because we kind of looked at OD as a low down dirty dog last year, but in all actuality, I believe they won 6 in a row.
They reeled off a bunch. Like they lost a bunch early. I think they lost like 6 out of 7 early, and then they reeled off a bunch of W's.
Yeah, they end off with 5 wins in a row towards the end of the season, and they made it to a bowl game, but they ended up losing. So OD's a tricky team right now, and one of the crazy parts about them is they didn't play in 2020 because of the COVID, and that could be excuse for lack of better words for for last year and what they did. So as far as the camaraderie, it looks like they trying to pull the troops together in this one more or less. So I think that they have a good upside to them overall. So they're dealing with second year coach Ricky Rain. He went 6-7 last year. On the offensive side of things, he has 11 returning on offense. He has 6 returning on defense. The offensive line returns 4, lots of experience. The running backs are loaded with talent. They even got a Notre Dame transfer. The wide receivers are decent as well. On the defensive side of things, like I said, they're returning 6. The defensive line is the most experienced unit. They're saying that they're solid in the front 7. Basically, they're saying the linebackers was hit with a lot of losses last year, but they get one returner, and he's a senior, Ryan Henry. He's expected to be the leadership on the linebacker crew. And at the secondary, they're led by a senior as well, Terrarium Johnson. He has very good talent, and he's a leader as well. So I think on defense, they grouping something together, and they look really good on offense. Now let's take a look at Virginia Tech. Brent Pry, first year coach right here.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we say? He was the defensive coordinator at Penn State, who we just talked about.
Right.
And he has some Virginia Tech ties that go way back to the 90s. We talked about that in some of the previews. I don't like this old alumni favorism. Let's get the best man for the job. Let's stop trying to see how calculated he is to the alumni or the school or whatever. This guy had been away from there since the 90s. I don't think it even makes a big difference when it comes to the play on the field. But anyways, they're changing to a run first offense with offensive coordinator Terry Bowden. He's an NFL style guy, and he's expected to be the type that can manage a game and pace things out, NFL style. And they also return 5 on offense, 7 on defense. At quarterback, they have 2 transfers, but Grant Wells from Marshall looks like he's leading the pack right now. At offensive line, they lack depth and experience. They add offensive line coach from Wisconsin to help because that was a big area that hurt them last year was the offensive line. The running backs are going to be by committee, and the wide receiver is going to be the best unit with loaded depth on the field. So if the quarterback situation pans out for them, they do have the wide receivers to make it happen. So on defense, major questions at the defensive line, a lack of depth and talent. The linebackers are the best unit. They return 2, they add 2, and this is probably specialty anyway. He's a linebacker coach anyway. So this is an area that he should be able to pick them up from. And in the secondary, there's lots of experience, good depth, and also says they're gonna have to adjust to price scheme coming into it. So really a lot of moving parts, I would say, on Virginia Tech. You got offensive coordinators in, coaches coming in. You got new coaching system, brand new coach. That's also things to get fired up about too. So don't have me out here saying that this is a key way always to happen. But for the most part, it don't look good to me with so many moving parts and all that kind of stuff. And then OD on the other hand kind of looks like a team we never seen before. I think they have a high ceiling, and I think ring a ding ding, this could be the upset of the day right here. But I'm just gonna take Old Dominion plus the 8.5.
Yeah, I don't. You won't have an argument from me on that. I'm going to touch on the Virginia Tech side first. 6-7, right? Last year, 4-4, and as that season went, when Justin Fuentes was there for like 6 years, they just kind of meandered their way through. He was supposed to bring in this high power offensive scheme for do all this shit, and it never panned out for them while he was there, and that's hence we got the new coach 6 years later. I thought he hung in there longer than probably he should have, but I thought he should have left the year before. And then, but the COVID thing, like we talked about that, COVID saved some guys' jobs the year before too, so they got a little bit of a pass on there. But yeah, they're going to have a whole new scheme here with this. They're like they were almost dead last in conference and nationally on offense in a lot of categories. We're talking like high 120s. We're in 130 teams, so there's a lot of struggles here for the offense on this team. That was their demise. And you did say Grant Wells coming over from Marshall. I don't know if he's going to inject that type of I wouldn't call it enthusiasm, but spunk to kind of pick this offense up and let it go. So, and then on both sides, there's a lot of holes to fill across the board for this team. So this is going to be like a fade opportunity. I'm going to be looking for fade opportunities against this team going forward. And OD, like you said, it's a team that didn't have a program up until 2014, and a couple years later they got involved and they were playing Conference USA. Now they made the shift this year to Sun Belt, so they'll play a whole different schedule this year. I think it kind of suits them a little bit better, even though Conference USA is not setting the world on fire. I think Sun Belt kind of fits their scheme just a little bit better. Just a tad, where they need to be. So they'll have some opportunities. And they did start off real slow. They lost 6 out of 7 games. I think they beat like a real small school, like an FCF type school early on, and then they reeled off 5 quality wins, and then they lost their bowl game going away. But all in all, you got to say it's a good year for them, stepping up and picking up that string of wins. And it's funny because every time they won, when they lost their games, if you go back and look at ATS numbers on this team, when they lost, they didn't cover, but when they won, they covered. I'm not saying they were underdog in every game that they won, but in some cases they were underdogs and they outright winners. So if you bet this team on the money line, you probably made money last year. Because you're probably getting plus money every time they played, more than likely. But I like them. I like the spot here. I haven't made a decision to play it yet, but I'd have to look almost like an overlay with that number 8.5 points on the road for Virginia Tech. A lot of question marks, so we'll see. That's my look on this game here. I think OD is live.
Yeah, I think OD is live too, and I lean under in that one too. I think OD can probably stuff them and put them away, and we'll be looking at Virginia Tech way different when it's time for them to play Virginia or one of their rival games. It's gonna be something totally different.
A couple weeks down the road, I think they played Virginia Tech. I think they play West Virginia or Virginia, whoever it is, a couple weeks down the road.
Yep.
Yeah, let me see.
That's it for that one, man. Shout out to our chat, man.
West Virginia. They play Boston College after Old Dominion. Then they play Wofford, and then they play West Virginia.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting right there. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But we're going to give a quick shout out to the chat, man. We got a lot of our guys in there with a lot of input. My man Marlon, my man Jimmy Gomez is dropping the ATM on every team. He can't find the one for ODU though, but it's somewhere in there. We got the Woo RZA in here. It's Nizzle was in here earlier, and we also got my guy Marley from Brothers and Bets.
I see Marley shouting out the SEC boss with the smile, with the laughing face. We know what that's all about. I seen that show, brother.
Oh yeah, y'all got to go check that out. The SEC, that insider right there is something to go check out.
I enjoyed every minute of that show.
Let's bounce on over to the next one right here. Booyah! TCU minus 10.5. The over and under is set at 55.5 right here. Big Sonny Dykes comes in first year TCU. And Carl Dornell, my enunciation probably wrong again, but third-year coach right here, and third-year coaches is one of my favorites, y'all. So what you feel about this one coming off the top, Big Ragoo, and then I'll bounce back in with my notes.
Let's start out with TCU first, because Darnold's been there a day and a half now so far, right? So TCU, we get Sonny Dykes. Now, what does Sonny Dykes do? He jumps in a cab from SMU. He goes across town to Dallas, on the other side of Dallas, and he opens up the door and he walks up and he knocks on TCU's door and says, "Hey, I'm here." So, yeah, a little short cab ride for Sonny Dykes across town to take on the Horned Frogs football program, which, I think he's going to do well over there longer term. The thing with the thing that happened with Peterson, Peterson was there 21 years, probably the longest tenured coach outside of our coach at Iowa. But man, I tell you what, he got Max Dugan to work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got Quentin Johnson, wide receiver, all world wide receiver over there. So what he does really well is take quarterbacks and bring them along. So and Dugan's one of these guys that he can air it out pretty well. So I think that's going to be a good fit for Dykes right away. Whether that translates to some W's in the early going, I couldn't tell you that, but I think there's a new. And then the other thing was like Peterson when he ran his practices, spring training, spring games, and all that stuff. Everything was closed doors. Sonny Dykes would say, "Hey, this is y'all's university. Everybody come on in." Media, families. So he's kind of opened the university up. So he's kind of it's like a new breath of fresh air, so to speak, over there. So and they're reacting to it pretty well. So, but he does bring a new defensive coordinator, Joe Gillespie, from Tulsa, and he runs a 3-3-5 where they ran They ran the 4-2-6, 4-2-5 in the past. So that's an easy transition, when they make audibles and stuff. And that Tulsa team beat him, Sonny Dykes, twice. So the old saying, if you can't beat him, you join him, right? So he went and recruited this guy to run his defense for him. So I think that's a good look for him over there too. And then, this team here, they kind of gave it up the last 2 years on the defensive side because, TCU is always known for their defense. And, they have played some decent offensive. Max Duggan beat Texas twice in his career right there. So, he's got some bragging rights there. So I like what I think it presents some good opportunities for some spot plays for TCU this year. Now I know they got him as a big favorite going into Colorado. Well, you said this is his third year, and this is another team with some major offensive struggles. And I'm talking like some of the worst offense in FBS, like 129, 130, New Mexico State type numbers this team has been putting up, really, really bad. And defensively, they're right there at the bottom too. They're ranked like 126. So they don't have a lot of things going in Boulder. But they did bring in the offensive coordinator from Minnesota, Mike Stanford Jr. I don't know what he's going to inject into that offense, So there's a lot of holes to fill there. But defensively, like I said, they have their struggles. I don't know. It's a big number. It's a big number. I think they're like 11 points, 10.5, 55.5. So I don't know. It's too many points for me to kind of get involved to take this team on the road to have them favored by double digits. I mean, as bad as they were last year, Colorado, they were 3-0 at home. From October, they lost. I guess they lost to USC, and then when they went on the road, they lost like 5, and then TCU was like 0-4 in the road last year too. So over the same stretch. So we'll see. It's an up in the air game. It's going to be a pass for me, but Colorado's got a lot of issues they need to address offensively and defensively. So I don't see. And this is his third year, and he's 8-10 in his tenure so far. So this could be not quite a hot seat year, but going forward, if he doesn't have an improvement this year, if he doesn't make a bowl, then we'll start rumbling about this coach here, I imagine.
Yeah, I find in this one, as good as I think it's a lot of. First of all, I think it's a lot of bias in the number at 10.5. I think maybe the books don't know either, and either TCU is going to blow them out or it's going to be a really close game.
They're based on that. They're based on Sonny Dykes' numbers at
exactly,
SMU, the high scoring
exactly. It's all based off of that, and that's where I see too much bias in the number. They do have some issues over on TCU. It's not all hunky dory over there or anything like that. They return 7 on offense, 7 on defense, but at the same time, they're switching over defenses because of Joe Gillespie from Tulsa. They're going from a 4-2-5 to a 3-3-5.
Right.
They're doing basically a total overhaul on defense, and they don't know if the players that they have are going to be able to adapt to the system because of the way the system was before. It was built for speed. So they're not really sure how well the whole new system is going to come in right away. So those are big question marks as far. I mean, even though he's a great coach, he's coming off good things with SMU. I mean, he's starting over again. You got to give the guy room to breathe. And then on Colorado, I totally agree. I mean, even though only thing that I did like about Colorado last year is that they try to contain teams at least in the first half. Like I like at least a beginning effort. At least come out of there.
They're playing in Boulder too. That's a lot of points, man. I mean,
Yeah.
then again, if you ask me if I had to pick a side, I would have to take, the double digits.
I probably would take the double digits too because Dorrell he replaced 80% of his offensive staff from last year. And that was a group, like we said, they only scored 18.8 points a game, but he gets a quarterback a little bit more improved. He gets him from last year, and he even got him backed up by Tennessee transfer JT Stroud.
Yeah, Trout. Yeah,
And then they solid on the offensive line. They got three returners, plus they get an Alabama transfer, and they got some more depth. At running back, they're talented with depth as well. And at wide receiver, they're very talented with depth. And they got transferred from Baylor, RJ Sneed. So they look decent on more decent on offense, definitely than 18.8 points a
on
game
paper,
from
right?
last year. Yeah, and then on the defensive side of things, they were hurt by transfer. They only
Yeah.
returned four, but sometimes that could be a good thing to get rid of, cut off the fat meat. They say, right? So now they got new people. They got defensive line that's very talented and experienced. They should be the head of the defense. At linebacker, they got two senior returners plus West Virginia transfer who's solid, and in the secondary, they're led by senior Isaiah Lewis, but they have a little young, talented depth back there, so they really could use somebody to step up in the secondary. But it could be the same old song out there. But once again, when teams get beat that play the same type of scheme that he plays, it's usually because the defense on the field too long.
Yeah.
Some adjustments on offense, defense. I mean, them staying on the field, even if they don't score, they stay on the field longer. They allow the defense to be tougher and maybe get you somewhere in some games. So I definitely would. I guess after talking this over with you, Big Ragoo, I think I'm tiptoeing with that 10.5 in my
Colorado,
pocket.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
first look, on paper, when you go back, if you look at last year's numbers, which we're not playing the game last year, you know, going forward, which team's going to make the bigger improvements, in their spots? I think TCU has a better potential, but I think in reality, Colorado has the system already in place. With some of the pieces, they might have some holes and trying to fill holes and revamp. Definitely revamping the offense and defense. Nothing stellar there either, but they're going to have another year ahead of them. So TCU has to go in there and score points for them to cover that number. And if their defense plays halfway decent, so Colorado, I think they can stay within the number because I really don't think they're gonna air attack everything out. They're gonna figure some things out. What's gonna work for them going forward early on in the season too. They're gonna work through their kinks too. So points look good to me there. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. I lean on the over, but we don't know exactly what we're going to get out of that offense on Colorado.
Yeah,
So,
when I'm talking points, I'm talking about taking them.
oh yeah, I
Yeah,
take them 10.5.
yeah.
But that's all I got on that one, man. Let's go on and bounce over into our last one. We are right on time. We got 10 minutes left. This one's a fairly easy one because we can't study for it too far. But this is Minnesota versus New Mexico State, in which New Mexico State is going to already be on their second game when they come see these guys. So
Yeah, we're already capping game 2 and we ain't seen game 1 yet.
yeah, so I can't lay a pick out there. That just wouldn't be right to lay a pick out there, not knowing what's going to happen in that first game. Because if you looked at our last video from last week, I'm kind of high on New Mexico State, and if it falls my way, and yeah, plus 37, I might take it again. We talked about it on the last show as well. As there's some coaching. Big Ragoo's going to touch on that stuff, but there's some coaching friction and all kinds of stuff going on out there. And the coach over at New Mexico State, he's very vocal about what he has to say about it. So I'm sure going into that week, if New Mexico could pull off an upset and go into that week playing Minnesota with all behind that guy like it's written in a fairy tale, then they might beat Minnesota minus that 37. But we'll have to see what happens the first week before we can lay a solid pick. But tell them more about the coaching controversy
Yeah,
going
there's
on.
some funny twist in this one, man, because we don't know. We talked about Jerry Kill last year and where he came from. Well, he coached at the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, and guess who's marching into New Mexico State is Minnesota Golden Gophers. So I think Jerry Kill's got a little chip on his shoulder for PJ Fleck in this particular spot here. So it's not the coaches that are playing the game, but they're going to play their little I won't call them mind games, but their little jabs they're going to take at one another, for that. And most part, I think there's a little bad blood here, so to speak, and plus the fact that you're getting 37.5 points. Now we know next New Mexico State, they're like at the bottom in all most of the FBS categories. So you don't have that going for them, but they do have a little bit of pride, and like DJ touched on last week, we're talking about how they are breathing some new life into that university. There's a lot of optimism there, which there always is every year. But first game out of this will be their second game out of the gate. Now don't forget, we keep talking like it's the first game.
Yeah.
It'll be their second game. They got to play Nevada this weekend first. Coming out. So we'll see how they come out of that. If they come out with a W, you think they're going to be pumped up to play this team the following week? It's a big word though. But on the Minnesota side, they get PJ Fleck back. For his, I think what is his fourth or fifth year over there at Minnesota, and they fired their offensive coordinator, who's the guy we just talked about that went to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and they bring back like you talk about bringing guys back, old alumni back. They bring back Kirk Shiraka, who was there in 2019, which they had their best offensive year when he was there. So after firing the OC, they bring this guy back, and some of the best numbers he put together for this. And you talk about super seniors, they got a bunch of them. They got Tanner Morgan, the quarterback, right? Muhammad Ibrahim, who was out all last year, he's coming back this year. He's going to be going if he's healthy and he's anything near he was one of the best running backs in college football right there on Minnesota. Ibrahim, he's an NFL. He's a Sunday player, and the thing was they were last in the Big Ten in a lot of offensive categories last year. That's why they fired the offensive coordinator, and they were like ranked 118th in the nation in that too. So, and they bring in Joe Rossi, who was the defensive guy. He's a second-year coordinator on the defensive side, and this is where they were shining last year. They were ranked. They were ranked sixth nationally in scoring and third in total yards per game. So, a lot of these teams early on, though, in the Big Ten, we've seen it happen before, like Wisconsin and Penn State. They had like a lot of low numbers, but that's because of the style of football they play up there. It's just the way it is. But still, they stop the run and then the pass second. Except for if you're not Ohio State. Ohio State, that's a different ball game. But anyways, I just think it's a lot of points, 37.5 for a lot of bad blood. I mean, definitely a way more talented team. Anybody that goes into New Mexico is going to be, probably 128 times out of 130 going to be more talented than them. But, we're not betting wins and losses. We're betting point spreads here, right? So let's keep things in perspective. So I think they got a fighter's chance here. Just for the fact that it's an away game. It's a pretty good travel spot. New Mexico is not like they're going up to Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or someplace like that. They're going all the way down to New Mexico. Strange territory. It's just a weird vibe on this game. With the history, the coaches, and the travel spot and the big number. Just it's another one of those things. Early season plays that it's not going to be like Appalachian State beat Michigan, but it could be something, along those lines covering the number.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I watched a couple videos of some players in some press conferences and stuff like that. And they clearly talked about how much they love Jerry Kill and how much it's such a better environment to play in, how they're enthusiastic to come out and play for this guy. So, after Blake Anderson turned the tables in the Mountain West, we cannot count him out.
I agree. I mean, without a doubt. Hey, we're talking about 18 to 22-year-old kids. You know what I mean? They need to be
Yeah.
motivated. You know, they all have some type of athletic ability, be it, 2-star, 3-star, 5-star. But, they put their heart in the game. Like you say, they get the master motivator, somebody they believe in. And that's what really sells these kids on the program is just, buying in. If they're buying in what Keel's selling,
Yep.
who knows what can happen.
Absolutely. But we coming around to the end of our show number. We're gonna call the show number 02. On our show number 0, back at it, Boston and Sauce. Make sure y'all go tell a friend. Make sure y'all retweet the show. All that good stuff. We really appreciate our guy Jimmy Gomez in the chat. He's putting up all kinds of stats and numbers
Yeah,
that
Jimmy's
I don't
fine.
even got right here with me. But we definitely appreciate that. We appreciate my man Marley from Brothers and Bets coming in here, hanging out with us too, man. And of course, our own Marlon Z. We appreciate y'all. Be looking forward for Marlon Z, preferably on the Friday night or the weekend. He's gonna be coming with the UFC, also with the soccer plays. So he might even be on at half midnight with the soccer plays. We don't know. Those games go off at all different
Yeah,
times.
give him a follow on Twitter. He's a good follow too. His tweets are fun to look at, and he's got a lot of energy. He's a super guy, man. Follow Marlon. Give him a follow for sure.
Yep. And make sure y'all leave some comments, man. And if it's some stuff we missed or something you want us to cover next week, make sure you leave a comment on the video. Shout out to Denny Lopez right now. Said he loves the breakdown, fellas. We appreciate you, man. We just been doing the same thing we've been doing since day one, and we was doing it before we even got behind camera. So we're legitimate people that ain't gonna just tell you nothing crazy. So
Yeah,
keep tuning in. And you'll definitely get a whiff of what Boston the Sauce is all about. Any last words for the people, Big Ragoo?
No, man, just shouting the love out to the chat. We appreciate you guys' support, and then also, I think, boss, we're going to tell them. I think we do have a Saturday show that we're going to be doing on Pub Sports. 10 o'clock this Saturday, 10 o'clock on Pub Sports Radio. Now I know their channel kind of got screwed around, so it'll either be on the Pub Culture channel or the Pub Sports Radio channel, one of those two channels. But check us out. We'll be on for the College Football Saturday. DJ Big Boss, myself, Ian Cameron, and Connor Mack.
Absolutely. Make sure y'all tune in for that. It will be a show, and it will last for the whole season, just like we're going to last for the whole season right here on the Boston the Sauce. So holla at us. We're going to get out of here, y'all. Peace.
The Boston the Sauce Show.
Boston the Sauce Show.
Boston the Sauce Show.
Boston the Sauce Show. Here we go.